America, welcome into the Business Pulse, brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, the pro-American business network. You can find them online at freedomchamber.net. I'm Chuck Barham, your host. I'm joined by Rod Martin of the Martin Report and rodmartin.org. He's also the CEO of Martin Capital. And we've got Dean Owen, OwenCPA.com, the owner of Owen CPA. And gents, we've got a lot going on in the news. Iran, NATO, Israel. The stock market seems to be doing okay. Oil prices seem to be doing okay. I would welcome your thoughts on those right out of the gate. Rod, we'll start with you.
Well, not only are the things you just said true, but they're the exact opposite of what we were hysterically told for the last couple of weeks. You know, Israel attacks Iran. The world is ending, World War III, and certainly World War III if the United States involved itself. The joke, of course, was that anybody paying attention understood that we were already involved. Donald Trump planned this entire campaign with Benjamin Netanyahu in advance. The Israelis did what needed doing to prepare the way for us to finish the job at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. And, you know, the response of the Iranians was almost non-existent. The Israelis took out their air defenses without any effort at all, without a single lost plane. We were in their airspace and they didn't even know it. And their threats of closing the Strait of Hormuz were bogus. They couldn't do it, but if they did do it, we'd have just sunk their entire Navy in a day. So, yeah, markets responded really well. And there are a bunch of things that come from this that will help markets in a number of ways that our viewers will benefit from.
Absolutely. You know, back in April when we started with the tariffs, everyone was talking about markets and all the hate and dribble and then gloom and doom. You know, but at this point, I would take our viewers and just ask you, why would you listen to any of that garbage and that filth again? It is obviously garbage and filth. It's going to keep being garbage and filth. That's what it's been for decades. Just turn it off and understand they're doing nothing. The media is doing nothing but trying to get an emotional response out of people, get people upset, get people fearful of Trump. That's what they're trying to do, divide Trump's base from him and just turn it off and tune it out. They're useless. I personally quit listening to that stuff. I do not want to put that filth in my head. Find something positive like this, and there's other positive venues, which are more accurate news. And I think we need to stay involved, need to stay engaged. But these sources, I mean, dear Lord, they get it wrong. They get it more wrong than CNN poll numbers.
Well, Dean, you're exactly right. And we've seen that over and over and over now. You know, take the tariffs that you just mentioned. These were supposed to just mushroom inflation. We're going to have, you know, it's a tax on American consumers, but it hasn't been. And the truth is tariffs rarely are. That's not the problem with tariffs. Speaking as a free trader who's for Trump, the problem with tariffs is longer term. It's that if India puts 100% tariff on Harley Davidson, which is what they've done forever, that means that you really don't sell any Harleys in India. And so the Indian producers have no competitors. And after a while, they get sloppy and terrible, just like Ford, GM, and Chrysler did in the 70s. That's the real problem with tariffs. But the idea that tariffs don't work is belied by the fact that all these countries have tariffs on us, and they're doing fine. They do better if we had free trade, and Donald Trump has made that point repeatedly. The best outcome would be zero tariffs, but the media doesn't understand any of this. They parrot some think tanks and some talking points, and they just always get it wrong.
You know, the one guy that lunch that has the dials where you watch the news and you turn it up or down, whether you like it or not. The day that happened, real news died. It became nothing but a propaganda show.
You're not wrong.
So,
and I don't mind blaming things on Frank Luntz anyway. That's just a good thing to do in general.
So as you're thinking about this from the business owner's perspective, you're watching what happened in Israel with Israel and Iran. You watched what America did to Iran, which was just, I mean, those pilots, kudos to them. God bless them. God bless our military. God bless their families. As you're a business owner and you're thinking, oh boy, what's this going to do to the supply chain? What's this going to do to the oil prices? Really and truly, I think it's going to be a positive for the world as you now have gotten rid of this threat. People are going to see that America is truly back in its peace through strength. As a business owner, how do you plan for things like that, or you just kind of roll with it?
I think you plan for an economic boom. You plan for the supply chains getting much stronger, oil prices going down. I say you plan for a very, very friendly business environment. Donald Trump is absolutely correct about Jerome Powell. He's too late. Interest rates are going to have to come down. If you look at where inflation's coming in, where the 10-year should be, we're about 1.75 too high. So when President Trump's calling for a 1-point cut, that's entirely rational. And when we get a 1-point cut and we start to see how home mortgages get back in the 4% range, there's a lot of pent up demand right now because of interest rates. That real estate sector is a huge piece of GDP. When it takes off, you not only sell houses, you sell gobs of furnitures and dishwashers and curtains and area rugs and everything else that goes into a house. And so, yeah, it's going to be good. And we're going to go back to that Trump economy we had from 17 to early 20. That's what we're going back to. This one big beautiful bill it's going through. There's always some haggling. It's getting a big tax bill passed is a lot like making sausage. Nobody wants to watch it, but everybody likes sausage. So we're going to get a big tax break out of that. The qualified business income deduction is going to get us back down to the upper tax break for small business owners in the 29.6 range. That's phenomenal. It incentivizes the right people to come into the workforce that are now out of the workforce. That's going to generate revenue. There's a 3.5% tax on, or basically a tax on remittances that go overseas. That's going to bring in a bunch of money. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not going to balloon the deficit. I don't know why. You ought to listen to CNN polls more often than you listen to CBO. You really should. So
absolutely. And the CBO has always been wrong. It's always been wrong. There's never been a time when it wasn't wrong. The CBO was established by the Democrats in 1974 in conjunction with the Budget and Impoundment Act for the purpose of asserting authority over the president. But of course, they staffed it entirely with Democrats, and even the Republicans who are there are rhinos. It's completely fake. And every single time we get a tax cut proposal, they score it as ballooning the deficit because they refuse to account for the economic growth that comes from it. And every single time the Democrats propose more spending, they score it as deficit neutral or even positive. They said Obamacare was going to have twice as many people sign up as it really did. That was a disaster, still is a disaster. In fact, I published an article at rodmartin.org today that shows that more than half of healthcare spending in the United States is skimmed off the top by the federal bureaucracy. It's just horrifying. You want a tax cut? Get rid of that. So from beginning to end, the CBO's wrong. The media is wrong. And from an investor perspective in particular, I would look carefully at defense because NATO just agreed to a 5% of GDP target, which is 2 points higher than the United States is spending. And we pick up 70.5% of the bill for NATO's defense, which is just absurd.
Well,
if you want to grow a lot in all of our countries, we're going to see a lot more trade opportunities because Trump's trade deals are intent on opening up foreign markets that have been closed to American producers. And of course, the minimum tariff is designed to incentivize production in the United States. And that's a big part of why we just got $8 trillion in new investment from overseas into hard hat jobs in the United States. This is going to be a boom if we don't screw it up.
Yep. And if you look at these recent conflicts, who are they going to buy weapons systems from? It's not going to be China or Russia.
Not
or Iran.
anymore.
Now that we've seen what we've seen, they're going to want our technology. They're not going to want everybody else's.
Absolutely. And we saw that in India, Pakistan, as well as Israel, Iran. The Chinese top-end fighters that Pakistan fielded actually did pretty well. I think they would have all gotten shot down by F-35s and F-22s, not to mention an F-47, but they did pretty well against what India had. What did India have? Russian junk And those are the
Yeah.
only planes that got shot down. I think
That
maybe
was
Mirage
Russian
and
modern junk.
Rafale, and so you know, who wants to buy that? And then Israel goes into Iran, blows up all of their S-300 and S-400 systems, these much vaunted air defense systems that we should be all scared of. They blew them all up without losing a single plane. So yeah, if you're an arms manufacturer in the United States, you should be calling every country on earth that has a TV, because they just watched your competition completely blow it.
And think about it from all the different auxiliary standpoints. Here, a few years ago, when Turkey was dealing with talking about buying Russian air defense systems, I think Turkey just changed her mind.
I imagine so, yes.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, from a, we've got another play coming along here after this tax bill, and the tax bill is good. From a practitioner standpoint, I hate it. It's a bolt on everything. There will be no more postcard size tax returns, but it does a lot of good things, but it's a lot of bolt ons. It's not a systematic, really well defined process. But you look at the next play Trump's going to come after is deregulation. That's your finance sector, that's the defense sector, that's energy. You look at all these super heavy regulated industries like energy and oil and natural gas and all of those, then the regulations start to come off, then those companies are going to boom and they're going to become wildly more profitable. And the more profitable it is, the better the stock market does. When all this happens, we don't know. And I'm not giving investment advice on this phone call, but or this show, but you need someone at this point, these small business owners, chamber members need someone who understands these things, that they listen to, that they can get input from, because if you're not paying for input, you're getting garbage. You know, the media doesn't call you the customer, they call you the target market. So I don't know how you can make it any more clear that you're a target to sell stuff to and sell airtime to, and they do it with wild emotions and not truth. So if you're going to get truth, you're going to have to get it from alternative sources. And we've seen.
Gents, can I pause you right there because we're running up to a hard stop here inside the Business Pulse. I'll tell you this much. You throw out a piece of red meat to you two, and it just goes nuts. I loved every minute of what you guys. We talked about anything from Iran and NATO to Israel and small business and interest rates. On the backside of the break, I want to talk to you guys about tax planning as a small business owner, because, besides healthcare, taxes are number one, number two right there when you're putting together a business plan on how that's going to work out, how that's going to shake out. So we'll be right back. This is the Business Pulse.
The old cliche, there is strength in numbers, is very true. You can be a small mom and pop company, and maybe you by yourself can't really swing anything, but put together, 20,000 mom and pop companies. Now that could do something right there.
Business owners, it is time to connect, unite, and show our strength in numbers. We need to unite our voices and fight back. My company is proud to be a founding member of the Freedom Chamber, the pro-American business network. Join today at freedomchamber.net.
This is the Business Pulse, brought to you by Freedom Chamber, freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network. I'm Chuck Barham. Rod Martin's here. You've got Dean Owen, and we're going to talk about tax planning for small businesses. Our chamber members have got their ears open, their eyes are open, they're watching this right now. Dean, what's the best path forward for a guy or a lady or a family that's opening up a small business, and how they should really start forecasting and putting together their pro forma as they're looking at taxes?
The big one, and I'll put some context around it, the accounting profession is dying. 75% of our accountants are at or past retirement age. We've lost a third since COVID, and as 4 leave the profession, only 1 comes in. That creates a massive labor shortage. And to do tax planning well, you have to have a relationship with your professional. You have to have a relationship with your CPA. If I don't know that you're going to take a trip, I don't know how to tell you to maximize it for tax purposes. If I don't know you're going to buy a piece of equipment, my team doesn't know to tell you how to do that tax efficiently. So first, you have to have a relationship, and that takes a little time. It takes an investment. What we like to do is meet with each client each quarter, have a conversation, and figure out what's going on, and be very relational. And that's hard in a world of reduced labor. But the process is you sit down with someone and they go through what I call the financial underwear drawer. Look at every single dollar they're spending. Where are they spending it? How are they spending it? Why are they spending it? Are there things they're not buying because of the cost, but they would buy if they could make it tax deductible? And start working on plans. The tax code is full of red lights, but it's also full of green lights. There's a provision that if you've got an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, you can rent your home to your business for up to 2 weeks a year, your business takes a write-off and you don't have to pull it as income. That's basic kindergarten level planning. It's called the Augusta rule, and it comes from the masters in Augusta. Everybody's renting out their house. Somebody decided there was 14 days was a cutoff. 15 days you got to report it. 14 days you don't. Well, that's the easiest. That's the kindergarten level stuff. Talked about healthcare. How do you make your health care a business write-off instead of a self-employed business write-off and save Social Security on it? There's a ways to do that, but it depends on your business entity. If you're S Corp, you're sole proprietor, partnership, C Corp, all of those are a little different. So everybody's situation's a little bit different, but it takes some time to figure out and get a plan together. And then it takes time to maintain the plan and make sure that all boxes are being checked. And that takes time and relationship.
Rod, I'd love your comments on planning and taxes, and somebody that's been in the business world forever. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, the first thing you need to do is call Dean and get him to be your accountant. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Step one.
And he's exactly right. You've got to have a relationship with your accountant. You've got to actually know them and them know you, and everything just works better that way. You need to use every tool in the toolbox. Dean is exactly right that this is not a comprehensive tax reform. This is not some simplified bill. This is actually kind of a mess. It's a good mess. It's a wonderful mess that we need to pass. But, I feel sorry for Dean trying to deal with it. And that's true for business owners too. So, maximize the easy, low-hanging fruit stuff that's available to you. We're going to have great new expensing rules. But there are just all kinds of things. I know guys who've started an LLC and don't realize that that's going to hit them with self-employment tax. And, there's a way around that. You can actually, have an LLC taxed as an S corporation. You get the benefit of both worlds. There are all kinds of things that can help you. But without a good CPA, you're never going to know them.
Yeah. And for example, if you've got kids at home, oftentimes the sole proprietor is the best ticket because you can hire them. They don't have to pay FICA taxes, neither does the business. But if you don't have kids at home, an S Corp probably makes more sense depending on profits. So there's so many variables, and there is no cookie cutter. It's a relationship. That's one of the things our tax code by design is incredibly complex, and then everyone's life is different. So the planning has to be different. If you don't have kids and your wife has a great job with health insurance, you don't need to worry about Section 105 medical reimbursement plan. But if you don't have that, you probably do. So lots of stuff that goes into that. And there's a lot down that lane, and it has to be personalized. If it's not personalized, it's going to work in the government's benefit. And I tell people frequently, we've got to take some time to be a relationship so we disinherit the government and not their children.
Right.
So,
Well, I like Rod's first step is just call Dean. And
Yes.
everything will fall into place, right?
By all means.
Back in our first segment, we talked about interest rates, and we had a email come in from Larry down in Fort Myers. He owns a tire and brake store down in Fort Myers off of Estero Boulevard. And he's asking about interest rates because he's got some condos that he owns, and he wants to know, is he ever going to be able to refinance? We did see the last time we ever saw the interest rates go down was a half-point drop right before the election, which we all kind of figured was a political move. But it seems like the feds just want to dig their heels in, and Trump's trying to push them out of the way. Your thoughts on that, guys? Because that's a big topic, and that moves the train down the tracks.
Well, I'd second that thought. The Fed has gotten ridiculously political. And of course, the ideal, whether you believe in this ideal, is irrelevant. The ideal is that a central bank would be completely apolitical. That's why the president can't directly order it to do things. I don't think that's constitutional. Honestly, I also think it's bad economics, but it doesn't matter. That's the rule. That's how it's supposed to work. And instead, they clearly tried to juice the results for Kamala Harris, and now they're clearly trying to stick the screws to Donald Trump, and it's not working either time for them. So we need some new leadership at the Fed, and I think that'll happen. I do think interest rates are going to have to come down, and in time they will.
Yeah, our last interest rate, our inflation rate in May was 0.1%. Annualized, that's 1.2. So it takes a while for those rates to come down because we're still carrying June of last year and the inflation rate there. But we're headed real quickly up to below 2%. You know, the 10-year Treasury should be trading at about a little bit above the inflation rate. It shouldn't be out of here at 4.25%, 4.5%. So we need to get those interest rates cut. It's political. I think the economy's got more than enough energy to plow us through until Jerome Powell has to cut rates. So as to Larry's question, yes, he will be able to refinance his condos. We're not going to see the 2% mortgages again. They're probably going to get down in the 4.5s. That's where they should be. In interest rates home mortgages should be about 2% above 10-year Treasuries, and that's where they are. But 10-year Treasuries should be 2% lower. So I look for probably Q1 of next year. The market's calling for a 50% basis point cut this year at 30%. There's about a 20% chance of more than that. There's a little bit of chance of less than that. But that's, I think, 10 of the 19 have called for Reserve people have called for cuts, 2 more this year. So, and they tend to be slow. In their defense, I do understand too what happened in the 1970s when they cut too much, too fast, and we had a resurgence in inflation. This is not 1970s. It's 2020s. So it's a different world, but once bitten, twice shy. But, you know, if I know this, why are these guys doing that job?
Indeed.
You know, this is not rocket science.
Larry, down in Fort Myers, hang on to those condos because, you know, people need vacation homes. They need that. So hang on there, Larry. Q1 is when we're kind of forecasting that interest rates may go down. Rod Martin, Dean Owen, the Business Pulse. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. And we appreciate it. Brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network.
Thanks for having us.